Prince Harry and that $20 million book deal? Was he really the first choice by Penguin Random House? Hi, good morning, Neil Sean here in the very heart of London. I hope you're keeping well, and as ever, thank you for joining me on this very special report. Now, I have a treat for you today simply because we're actually filming outside a very special building, particularly if you are a music lover, and more particularly if, of course, you are a huge fan, like myself, of the Beatles. I didn't realise until recently that this particular building was the original home of Decca Records, and this is the building where the Beatles came for their very first audition along with Brian Epstein way back in the early 60s, and they were sadly turned down. But more importantly, of course, fame and fortune shone on them as they signed on with a mega deal alongside Sir George Martin to create all that wonderful Beatles legacy. But if you're a fan, this is definitely somewhere you want to come and visit, simply because you kind of imagine, I mean, this is a shop now and flats, but can you imagine those young boys from Liverpool hoping to get that record deal and sadly failing? However, the man that turned them down, as I'm sure you all know if you're a Beatles fan, was the man who then gave birth, shall we say, to the wonderful Rolling Stones, who are still touring today. But as ever, back to your royal story. Now, all is not what it seems with Prince Harry in that book deal. Let me tell you exclusively this first. As we know, he got this mega deal from Penguin Random House, not just for the book, but for 4 books and one to be published after the sad demise of our gracious Majesty the Queen. We all know that stuff. But what you don't know is simply this. Penguin Random House really were very keen initially to have an autobiography from none other than the former cable TV star Meghan Markle. Now you can see how this makes perfect sense, simply because they felt that Harry's story had been told not firstly with just Oprah Winfrey, but then of course the documentary with Apple too. And they felt that, well, let's give it a gap and come back to him and possibly do his autobiography second. So the bosses at Penguin Random House decided, well, let's approach Meghan. Now you can imagine there was big bucks on the table, and more importantly, they are right, it would sell actually more if you think about it. But Meghan politely turned them down, and this is the reason why. She felt as ever, like she told Oprah Winfrey, the time wasn't quite right. I'm not sure when the time is going to be quite right, maybe if they put the money up a little bit more and looking into the future when circumstances have changed, perhaps they need more money, who knows. But an insider tells me that the real reason why Meghan basically turned it down was simply this. She's waiting to see exactly what stories come out of future autobiographies or biographies by other people, in particular one by the celebrated author Tom Bower. His pops out, of course, next year. And for Meghan, this would give her an opportunity to right the wrongs in his book and tell her truth, as Oprah Winfrey said, directly from her own mouth. And of course, because she turned it down, the publishers then figured, well, let's turn right back now to Prince Harry. And that's the reason why Prince Harry's going first. Brave move by Prince Harry, as I'm sure you'll all agree. Neil Sean in the very heart of London.